We've made it to Friday, and this is another episode of Local Roots. I'm Todd Studer. Thank you for a wonderful week. It has been, well, to be honest, it's been a little humbling. You know, I have another show that I produce called Morning Coffee that launched back in October of last year. This show, Local Roots, has done better as far as total views over the course of the week. And we still have another day to go with this particular show. So it shows that I believe that there is a desire to tell these stories and to be able to highlight what's going on in the more rural communities around Potawatomi County. You know, I had this idea when I started this project last year that the internet and the podcast form could be used in a different way. It could be used to highlight local areas. And I didn't really see anybody out there doing it yet. And then after I got started, I did see a few that it was just kind of sprinkled here and there. I ran across a young lady out in Nebraska that is covering small communities out there with her podcast. It's just an audio podcast right now, but she's doing great job. Her name is Sheila Jenkinson, and I hope to have her on the show to be able to talk about the small towns in Nebraska too, because, you know, let's be honest, the types of things that affect them also affect us. And there's differences, but there's also similarities. And I think that by reaching out reach a hand across that river. Can we do that? And so I'm looking forward to having her on. There's also an old buddy of mine that's up in Northwest Iowa that is doing this same type of thing in Okoboji. And his name is Jeff Thie. And he goes back with this format a long time. I mean, even before anybody was doing anything on the internet, he had a show on what I believe was cable access up there at the time and was doing great things. And now he is interviewing local people up there. So, I think that he has been an inspiration for a lot of things that I do here. I've seen other people that are doing a podcast just like what we used to do with small market radio. There is a company that I used to work for. They are based out of Knoxville, Iowa. I worked out of Pella, Iowa at the time, but they had a program that it was a daily interview that would air from 5 to 7 minutes that we had on, as I said, every day, part of the noon news hour. And they're still doing it. And I remember talking with an old buddy that was there at the time, and he said that, I told him, I said, you know, you guys kind of were doing podcasting before podcasting was even a thing. And he said, yeah, I know. and I used to do that back then. That was in the mid 90s. So why not use this platform to be able to highlight local areas as opposed to trying to hit some kind of big national thing? Yeah. And most people that are in podcasting, you know, they want to be the next Joe Rogan, or they want to be the next inspirational speaker or the next influencer or all of that. But this type of thing is different. We get to talk with folks in the smaller communities around Potawatomi County. And today we are going to do that very thing. Mike Holton is the city administrator in Treynor, and he's going to join us today. I had a chance to talk with him a little bit ago, and he's going to fill us in on all the exciting things going on in Treynor. And he's also sits on the board for Western Iowa Development Association. So he's heavily involved with everything that's going around the county. And I'm looking for more stories. So if you would like to be on the show, send me an email, please, toddstuder@gmail.com. And I would love to talk to you about what this is and how we can help spread the word about the exciting things that you are doing in your community. Mike Holton is the city administrator in Treynor. He is also the vice president of the Western Iowa Development Association and joins us now on the program. Thank you so much, sir, for taking some time to help us out with this. It's been a fun ride so far, and we're just really, really early into this program.
Well, I appreciate your having me on. I always enjoy talking about the region. There's a lot to talk about, and I realize that's what you're specializing in. So it's just like a natural fit.
Oh, and I'm, as I said, I'm very grateful for it. And Treynor is, Trainer's kind of in a unique position because you're so close to the metro. So obviously, there's a lot of folks that live there that make the commute to the east and either work in Council Bluffs or they work in Omaha. But I also know that there are some people that make that opposite trip and head over to Trainer too. But yet, you are still your own community and a very vibrant community. So it's kind of like, yeah, you know that you have a lot of population headed out of town during the day, but yet what you're doing right there in town is more important than that.
Well, there's several ways to look at it. Trainer is no doubt they call it the bedroom community. That is the plus side. Now, there's really not a lot we can talk negatively about that because it is what it is, and they've been commuting into the Omaha Council Bluffs region for work for quite a while, longer than I've been around. So, with that being said, you do what you have. You take the assets that you have in your community and make the best of it. And in that case, you know that, and everyone does know that Trainer has got a great community where people like to come and live for the peace and the quiet, the small town atmosphere, and it's fairly affluent. And there's a lot of people out here that have made good money doing just exactly what you said, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we're looking at housing as one of the big developments that we need to increase with in Trainer and still maintain quality of life.
Well, and we were talking just recently with Stacy White and also talking with Kevin Zimmerman about the small towns around Pottawatomie County and how important it is to you need to focus on growth and you need to maintain that, but also while retaining what makes Trainer, because that is what the appeal was to begin with the folks that moved there.
Well, absolutely. And there's a lot of things that Trainer is known for, and one of the things they've always taken pride in for many, many years is the school system that is here. Trainer School and the Trainer Cardinals it is the pride of the Cardinals that bring a lot of people in from out of district. So there's a lot of people that come to Trainer just to have their children in the school system, which is one of the top 5, the top 10. It's always been that way in the state. And they're very proud of it, and we're very proud of it. And as you can tell this week, as we're doing our podcast, the Lady Cardinals were just in the state tournament for girls basketball, and we now have the boys also in the state tournament coming up. So there is a lot of pride that goes around with our school system, and I would be remiss if I didn't start by talking about the school.
Well, and I'm very familiar with that, going back to my sportscasting days and following those Trainer teams over, whether it be to Des Moines or back when the state volleyball tournament was in Cedar Rapids or whatever the case may be. Yeah, athletics was always very, very strong, but it's also academics is also a huge thing in Trainer as well. That's why, as you said, it's such a the school is so highly rated across the state, and that is a draw. That is a draw. But the rest of the quality of life is too. You drive around Trainer and you see just how nice the neighborhoods are, and you see that there is what do they call that? Pride in ownership is what they call it in the real estate world, and you see it all the way through the community.
Well, there is pride in ownership. I came to Trainer from Northeast Nebraska, and that was exactly 5 years ago, probably almost to the day. So I'm celebrating my 5-year anniversary. And one of the things that I started with was to help Trainer with their first subdivision in housing that they haven't had for quite a while, and that was 29 homes that were started to be built in 2021, 2022, in that time frame. And there was an expectation that they would fill that within 15 years. That was kind of the idea to work around. We had some financing through TIF programs and things that we talk about and a lot with the government and with community development. But I guess the point of the story where I'm going is that 15 years has turned into the 29th home has been built and will be occupied this spring. And it's only been a journey of 4 to 5 years, which is phenomenal, which is going to lead us to our next 2 subdivisions that we are building toward the end of this year in 2025 of 20 houses each. So there'll be 40 new homes going in within the next probably 2-3 years, and we'll do the same process. All single family homes and right around the $350,000 to $400,000 level. So it's not like low. These are houses that are meant for families that are coming in that are really wanting to be here in Treynor, and we're excited and we're looking forward to that.
As that happens, and as the obviously the population continues to tick up, there's so many other things that go along with it, with the services and with the nonprofits and with churches and with all of these different things that are now accepting more people. And that's when you start to see growth with businesses. It takes, okay, we have enough people, how now we need more businesses here. And if there's opportunity, there are always people that want to go and create those businesses.
I think there is. The business side of it is probably a little slower than you would see in some of the other communities that have the downtown areas, as those people that are coming through on Highway 92 or coming in off of Highway 6 will know that Treynor doesn't have a traditional downtown. Their downtown lies basically right on Highway 92, and it's kind of been a pass through. And that is one of the things a lot of people said, oh, that's just terrible that Treynor doesn't have that square that some of the other communities in southwestern Iowa have. But to be perfectly honest, I don't have any issues as a city administrator with not having a downtown, because we have other things that we can then focus on and not have to worry about whether it be dilapidated buildings or older buildings that need to be restored. We do with what we have. And so even though we don't have a downtown, the businesses are along Highway 92, and we seem to be getting a lot more on the what I call boutique side. Very, very wonderful shops. And I think you heard Stacy with WIDA talk about the Occasional Collective. Mm-hmm. That took an old barber shop here in town and turned it just into a beautiful, beautiful little building that she's been able to do local. And that's what it is. It's mostly local vendors that have come in, and she's selling that through not only the shop, but also through online as well, and doing very well for herself. It's Alicia Hess. And then we also have another neat little business that is located next to the post office called Lily Pops. And they started out with a cake type donut on a stick. And they worked into the farmer's market, and this has been about 5 years ago. And they saw that the demand was there, and they looked for that front that they could have. And it's taken a little while, but they have now just blossomed into this place where you need to go to if you're going through Treynor to get your not only your desserts that are there, and including a lot of variety in that those cake pops, and I mean variety, all different types of flavors. Plus, they also have coffees, iced coffees and warm coffees. They are the Starbucks of Treynor.
I think that those are two examples of exactly what you're talking about, that if opportunity is there. And I think that as you see these types of businesses be successful, that success breeds success. And it's inspiring to someone else who may have an idea that, I think that this community can handle this type of thing. And that is where that growth comes from. But also on the specialty side, it's not as if there's big box stores coming through there, which I think that can change a community. Whereas these small specialty shops are more in tune with exactly what it is that you like to do.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the Treynor people want to remain the small community feel and be Treynor. Because if you really want the big box shops, which there's a lot of people that do, and I personally like to go shopping. I know my wife does. Hobby Lobby for my wife is right down the road, less than 12 miles. And that's certainly doable if you get on Highway 92. And I think that's the advantage. That's when we talked about earlier, you say it's so close, you don't have that retail. Well, we don't have it right here, but we have a very close proximity to mm-hmm. the metro and take advantage of it. So Treynor is getting probably the best of both worlds. And I know personally, living in this community is exactly what I've always advocated for the last, I think, almost 40 years. I've been involved in rural community development, either through as a city administrator, but many, many years ago, I also worked as a director for the Center for Rural Affairs, which was an advocate in Lyons, Nebraska, that was nationwide helping rural communities, farmers, anything that could be related to the very word rural.
And those are the types of things that can then, because well, as we were talking before we got going, there's a lot of different organizations and a lot of different programs that Treynor is taking advantage of and being able to implement to help with all of this growth.
Well, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about is I would be remiss if we didn't thank a lot of the people. We know this region is beautiful, but there are people that make it beautiful. And in Treynor, one of those organizations is our very own TS Bank. Mick and Judy Gutaw have been just phenomenal supporters of not only Treynor, but the entire area, just in the way they handle themselves. It's one of the reasons, and I will say one of the top 5 reasons I moved and came down to be a city administrator in Treynor was meeting Mick Gutaw with the Treynor State Bank and just the love that they have for the area and what they've done to be able to promote what it's like to be in a small community and thrive.
Yeah, I had an audio only podcast for a while called Success in Iowa, and I had Mick on as a guest. And by the end of that conversation, I don't know anything about banking, but I wanted to work for him. There's just certain people that have that quality. Typically, you see it in some of the more top coaches. And I think that had Mick Gutaw decided that coaching was going to be his career, I think he would have been very, very successful at it. But you're right that organizations or companies like TS Bank that can be a leader in a community, and now they've expanded, all across the state in a lot of different areas. And it's important for them. It's actually in their bylaws that they contribute a percentage back to the communities where they're at.
Yeah, and and a lot of those, when it comes to even the federal regulations of giving back to your community, when it comes to banking, it's interesting because banks like TS Bank never have to go under the audit gun that they aren't giving back to the community because they did that with or without the strings that are there that say you must do that. They already did that. They're just a prime example of what individuals in a community can do and there's a lot of them around Southwest Iowa. I see some great people all the time in Neola, Oakland, Carson, Macedonia, Avoca. I mean, individuals that really, truly, deeply care about their community. And then it gets right down to the region. It's not just the township, but they know that survival for all of us is all about being together and working together as a region, which is why I love Western Iowa Development Association. And I'm an officer as a vice president working with Kevin Zimmerman in Minden. We wanted to see the same thing: marketing, promotion, and making things better for all of us, not just one community.
I do think that this particular part of the state is doing very well with all of that, and obviously there can always be improvements made and growth made. But I've been around a lot of parts of the state, and it's not everywhere's not like that. There are some places that are in drastic decline, and some places I don't know that they can recover from it.
No, and I agree. I think that's the beauty of the southwestern Iowa. I think it's a hidden gem. I mean, I think there's a lot of charm. There's a lot of vibrant. I mean, even speaking with Ron Kroll up in Shelby, they've got a lot of good things going on. Kevin Zimmerman, you've had on. It's just remarkable. And we talk about Minden, and I know that Kevin probably talked about it. And we always talk about the tragedy of it's coming up on a year right now in April. But the one thing that came out of that, and we knew this, is that very night when we were all ducking for cover, and certainly my wife and I were in the basement and had people telling us it's coming close to Treynor. And as it moved through and went to Minden, within hours, several of us that were in the region reached out to get a hold of Kevin and Minden and send crews. We at Treynor sent crews up there to help clean up in the immediate aftermath because there's a lot of things that needed to happen within the first 48 hours. So, and I mentioned Ron from Shelby. He was one of them that called right away. We were all on the same phone contact with Kevin immediately. And there's just not enough we could do. We wish we could do more, but that's what happens and why maybe when you talk to Minden and the rebuilding efforts that they've had going on, it's a combination of the entire region coming together. The state will help. The state was very much a partner in all of that, but all of the towns wanted to help in one way or the other and gave up a lot to sit there and try to do whatever we could to make sure that Minden got back to where they needed to on their feet.
What are some of the other organizations that are really doing great work there in Trainer? Because I know that there's a number of them, and there's some fairly strong business people that are all involved with this and want to make sure that Trainer stays just as Trainer.
Well, one of the biggest groups that I became involved with when I first got to Trainer was a group called Vision Trainer Group. I just said those words over and over again, but that really is the name, VTG. And they started many years ago, and their idea was to build around recreation and bring in ball fields and anything that would be an amenity that would help attract people to the area that this is what people want. They want to have the ball fields. They want to have the pickleball courts, the basketball courts, the soccer fields, and they've started to do that and purchased a parcel of land right there in Trainer and have been building since. But they've expanded not only to the ball fields that I'm talking about, but they are the ones that received from the Charles Lakin Foundation a large grant to sit there and work on what we have affectionately called the housing development of Zion Drive or Heartland. You know, we're trying to work those 40 homes I was mentioning in that. This is a partnership. And the president of that organization is Travis Castle, and he is also on the board with Iowa West Foundation. He is just a dynamo of a man that sits there and helps out in the Trainer community because he truly loves the community.
I've just recently, I talk a lot about on my other show is called Morning Coffee about a group that I belong to, a business group called the Council Bluffs Business Connection. And Travis was just accepted in as a member to that group. So yeah, and I've spoken with him many times over the years with his involvement in different organizations. And yeah, you're right. Travis he follows through and truly believes what he says, and you can tell that about him. And there's a number of folks that are in Trainer, and as you said, in other places around the county and around Southwest Iowa that fit right into that mold. And I think that's what, as we all grow together, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. That the rising tide raises all ships, and we're seeing that.
I think I think you're seeing a lot of. At least I believe I've seen more since coming out of the pandemic in 2020. It slowed a few things down, but I think what came out of that, and this is trying to be philosophical and trying to look at it from a different way, but the small communities really tightened up and became even stronger coming out of that because they relied on each other. And I see that not only in Trainer, but I saw it in Carson. I've seen some wonderful things right down our neighbors to the east, and they've done some great things with their downtown and just remarkable for a smaller town of 600 to 700. I think that they have done some things that most towns in 3 or 4 times their size couldn't do. So, I mean, Macedonia has had a little renaissance of sorts over the last few years. And I think money has been thrown towards all of us in many different ways, but it's more than money. It's what you do with the money that makes a big, big difference. And, Trainer has been able to leverage a lot of that and bring a lot of more activity in. We're in the process right now. I mean, it seems so, people don't really get too thrilled when they hear about things like this. But for a small town like Trainer, we're building a road. And we're building a road off of Highway 92 that will bypass and go around this Vision Trainer Group grounds into the recreation and then bring it into the new subdivisions and then out to head towards Highway 6. And it'll be a transformational road. It's not a bypass, but it'll be a safety valve for those people that are getting out, because if you know Trainer well enough, going through, it can get congested at what they call Four Corners. And that is a busy intersection that sometimes it's hard to get in and out. And this will be something that'll be just another access point, an entrance, a way to show off and do a lot of things. And I know that's one of our big projects right now is to have this road get built and help out with the Vision Trainer Group grounds. They call that grounds, by the way. I keep calling it Vision Trainer Group. That is the organization, but the recreation facility is called the T. So if you hear somebody mention the T, that'll be in the next 10 years, probably one of the destination spots to go to.
Why would you? How would you explain to someone that, say, lives in a city? Maybe they're from Omaha, and they look at a smaller community such as Treynor or Minden, that we talked about, or Oakland, or any of the other smaller towns, and you would explain what life is like for you as opposed to what life is like for them, and how would you explain that difference to them?
Well, one of the things about, and you talk with city, let's just pick on Omaha. I mean, and my children live in Omaha, so I can say it. And
Hmm.
as a Nebraskan, I can love it as well. There's a lot of value to the shopping experiences and things of that in the cities. The value of being able to raise your children and coming out to a small town like Treynor, and we'll use Treynor as a, there's other intrinsic values that I don't think people really understand. Even walking, if you go into a large metropolitan area to go walking, sometimes people will spend hundreds of dollars, even up to $1,000 for memberships into walking areas where they can go into the gyms and things of that nature. Walking is one of those things that you can have access to in most of these small towns and go out any time of the night without any fear or
Hmm.
anything that you need to worry about other than yourself being on the road and walking and being safe and careful. But as far as walking and getting out and getting fresh air, and quality of air, quality of water, quality of your services that are there, those are the things that people look for. And I think one of the things that I really enjoy about rural, and Treynor being certainly one of them, is the peace, the serenity of going out at night. If I wanted to, a lot of times we had these events with the aurora, with the northern lights. Over
Hmm.
just this past year, I can go half a mile outside of Treynor and get just beautiful shots of the stars, and you just there's a certain sense of serenity, I think, is the that you get from living in a small community, and a community that really cares about you. And it's more than just the people. It's a combination of all of the things in a package deal that it's hard to pass up.
Well, I am very grateful, Mike, that you took the time to talk with us a little bit. I hope that you're not a stranger and that we can make this a regular occurrence on the show, and to be able to highlight some of the different things that are going on in Trainer, and also with Western Iowa Development Association. We're very happy to be able to work with everybody involved with that, because it's I'm a big believer in small business. I'm a big believer in entrepreneurs. I'm a big believer in folks taking chances on themselves, and that's what you see. Top to bottom, you look at all of the different communities and you see the businesses that are going in, and a lot of them haven't been around a long time. They've been around a year or two or maybe three, and they're doing well. And you see the success that they're having. And to me, that means, okay, we're moving in the right direction. And I think that White is a huge part of that.
Well, and I want to finish off by telling you, with Western Iowa Development Association, even 5 years ago, when we were talking about what is it we want to do with the
Hmm.
organization and how do we want to grow with the organization, part of it was the promotion and marketing of the small communities. How do we do that, and how do we be very clear in the way we do it? And boy, I got to tell you, you're one of the best. And I tell you, I appreciate that. This is exactly what I looked at 5 years ago and didn't know what it would be, is
Hmm.
the ability to market and do what you're doing right now through these podcasts. And I hope you the best of success in the future.
I'm grateful for that. Thank you very much. And as I said, Mike, we look forward to talking to you again.
We will do that.
Well, after today for our region, things should be warming up a bit. And as we look ahead into the week, I mean, we may see 70 on Monday, 70 degrees after experiencing some pretty chilly weather all week long. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that it holds through into the weekend. I'd love to get out and do some camping, but I know it's wishful thinking, but we have such a wonderful county park system in Pottawatomie County and some great camping. And I need to get out and explore a little bit more and make that a regular routine, and maybe even shoot some video and put it on the show here, that we can talk about the great things that are going on. I know I've got a talk that's coming up very soon with pot conservation, so we can learn more about what's going on with the county park system. That is coming up very soon. We'll let you know when it gets a little bit closer. Also, wanted to let you know that there was an announcement this week in Council Bluffs that, well, were you aware that there's a semi-pro soccer team now in Council Bluffs, and they are part of the Midwest Premier League, and they now have a home field. They worked out a deal with Lewis Central, so they're going to be playing. Most of the times it sounds like it's going to be on Saturday afternoons, but their opening game in May will be on a Friday night under the lights, so that's going to be kind of cool. And if you want to see an interview with more about that, it's on my other show, Morning Coffee. I talked with a lady named Becky Locke. She is the wife of the head coach, Brian Locke, but she's also really involved with the team and does a lot of the behind the scenes work with them. And they're just kind of a soccer family. Both Brian and Becky played soccer, and it's exciting to have something like this in the area. So you'll be able to go see like semi-pro soccer players. There's local players on that. There's also international players as well. So should be a lot of fun, and to be able to see soccer locally on a much higher level. So I'm looking forward to that. Season gets started in May. Wrapping up this week on Local Roots, thank you very much for all of the support. I have been seeing those views tick up. I have been seeing followers going up. I've been getting tons and tons of comments, not only online, but also text messages, emails, and people have been very encouraging. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for everything that you have done. Thank you to Western Iowa Development Association for helping us out with a lot of content that we're able to bring you. And we're also going to be talking with more and more nonprofits and getting that information out as well. I know there is NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. The Southwest Iowa chapter is going to be holding a walk that's coming up, and they got a kickoff event that's coming up next weekend in Neola. I'm planning on being there, so we'll tell you more about that next week. All right, that wraps up this episode. We thank you so much for being a part of it. My name's Todd Studer. I hope you have a great weekend.